draft. The 1-2 or worse team that you have most optimism they can turn things around. There are 15 teams that are 1-2 or worse. And here's the trivia question, Myles. Let's see if you get it. When is the last time a team started 0-3 and made the playoffs?
See, I don't know if I'm going to get this one. I mean, I know that the Chargers in the early 90s were 0-4 and they ended up making the playoffs, but I doubt that it was them because there's probably been an 0-3 team to make it, but I'll just go with the Chargers that started 0-4. Let's see what the answer is.
They were 0-4 under Bobby Ross in his first year as the head coach, and they turned it around and made the playoffs. The Texans were 0-3 in 2018, and they turned it around and made it to the postseason. I'll still give you the first pick anyway. I'm so used to giving the first pick to whoever's co-hosting. Go ahead and take the first pick. Give me a 1-2 or worse team that you're the most optimistic about.
Thank you for your benevolence, dear leader, for that right there. I'll go with the Bengals first because I picked them to be the number 1 seed in the AFC before the season. I don't know that they're going to be able to do that, especially because we don't know how healthy Joe Burrow is going to be. He's clearly not healthy right now, right? I mean, he gutted out that performance against the Rams. He was okay, but this is a big test this week for that offensive line going against a Titans defensive front that is very, very good. So, my cousin, who's not actually my cousin, Jeffrey Simmons, can introduce himself to Joe Burrow, and we'll see how that thing ends up. But I still feel like, given how strong the defense has looked, right? Given the fact that you've still got 3 top-tier receivers in Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd, they're still going to be a part of the mix in the AFC. So I'll go with the Bengals first, excuse me.
I would have concern about the Bengals because of this Burrow injury. We haven't heard anything about what the aftermath is of playing on Monday night. I think it's something that's going to take several weeks to get even close to 100%. It could be nagging all year long for Joe Burrow. So I'd have a hard time with them as my first pick. I hate to do it, but when you look at the various choices, the one team that I would have optimism can turn things around given the division they're in, given the conference they're in, given their schedule, is the Minnesota Vikings. Because they've been in every game. They could be 3-0 as easily as they're 0-3. And unless this is the year that is the mirror image to last year, where every time you flip the coin, it comes up heads last year. This year, every time you flip the coin, it comes up tails. That's not good for the Vikings if this continues. At some point, they have to break it. And if they would lose this week against the Panthers, it could be done. They have to go and win this one and then hope that maybe they get lucky against the Chiefs. I mean, if they beat the Panthers as they should and could steal one at home against the Chiefs, then all of a sudden you got a different vibe around the Vikings. So I think that of these choices, which are not a great collection of choices, the Vikings would be the one that I would be most optimistic about, Myles.
Yeah, the Vikings are on my list too, and in large part because they have the best receiver in the National Football League in Justin Jefferson, who, you should be throwing to when the game is on the line, but that's neither here nor there, and you should have spiked the ball before that play that ended the game against the Chargers anyway.
Was.
But I mean, come on. I was so disappointed in Kevin O'Connell. It's like that. Anyway, next pick on this, because
not
that's
Kevin O'Connell, Kirk Cousins.
Both of them.
Kirk Cousins had to go spike that ball.
I know. What do you need to communicate for, right? Do this. We spiked the ball in that situation. Spike the ball. I mean, come on. Yeah, it's bad. Both of them. That's not good from that. So anyway, next pick in this draft, I'll go with the Jaguars because I feel like even though they're off to a slow start, we know that they have talented players. We know that they have a good coach in Doug Peterson. They should be able to get themselves back in. And much like the division, where you're talking about with the Vikings, the AFC South is not the strongest division, right? The Colts have won a couple games and they've looked pretty decent doing it. And I think Shane Steichen is a good coach. I really do. And then you have the Houston Texans, and yeah, they've got a young quarterback. They're making things happen a little bit. They obviously just beat the Jags, but that's a divisional opponent. Things happen. The Tennessee Titans, they don't look like they're really going to make much noise, even though with Mike Vrabel, you can never count that club out. But it just seems like the Jaguars, if they can go to London and they beat the Falcons, great. You stay over there and maybe you beat the Bills too. If you come back and you're 3-2 after that 2 London game swing, then that creates a lot of different vibes. So I think that the Jaguars have the capability of doing that. We'll see if they actually do.
First time ever a team plays back-to-back games in London. And last year it was losing to the Broncos that was the impetus for Trevor Lawrence to realize, if I'm ever going to be a good NFL quarterback, I really have to find next level. And I think right now, organizationally, they're struggling to find next level. They get 2 chances in London to do it. Pickings are slim here. I will go with the Giants because they ended up in the Cowboys' buzzsaw week 1. That was a disaster. That was a mess. That was just a crap happens game. They beat the Cardinals, and they don't have Saquon Barkley. And look, it wasn't an embarrassment against the 49ers. It was just kind of a suffocation. But they get Barkley back. They just kind of stabilize a little bit. I think they can improve, and I think they're in position to maybe swipe the 7 seed by the time it's all said and done. And I say that largely because I look at these other teams, and I'm like, I don't believe in any of the other teams. The Giants are the team that I am not most optimistic about, but least pessimistic about when you look at all the teams that give you reason for pessimism.
Yeah. And, we saw the Giants last year do some things, right? So we don't think that Brian Daboll is a bad coach. Maybe when they get Saquon back, things start to churn a little bit better offensively. But yeah, I kind of agree with you. I mean, it is slim pickings here as I look at my last pick. And I don't know, man. It's not even that I'm feeling that optimistic about this team, but the Chargers have the best quarterback of the rest of the bunch. So I'll go with the Los Angeles Chargers. I mean, look, Justin Herbert looked phenomenal against the Vikings the other day. And, that pick that almost happened, notwithstanding, that ended up being, the game-winning touchdown. I mean, he is really ascending right now. And it's almost like, well, can they get the stuff around him right so that it's not hold your breath at the end of the game and see if the defense can come up with a stop that makes sure that, they're not on the wrong side of it at the end of the game. I mean, in theory, like both of those teams should have won that game, and both of those teams should have lost that game between the Chargers and Vikings. And it was just some baffling decisions at the end of it, not necessarily with deciding to go for it, but what is the play call? I mean, if it's 4th and 1 and Justin Herbert, who's good at sneaking, is on the field, why aren't we just sneaking the ball? I don't know. But that, I guess, because Herbert's the best quarterback of the bunch, that is a reason for optimism if you're looking at the Chargers.
That's a good point. And you know what? I feel like just ending the draft here. There's no other team that I feel optimistic about. I mean, the Titans just went to Cleveland and were outclassed on both sides of the ball. I love me some Mike Vrabel, but I just don't think they have the players this year.
Yeah.
You look at the Rams. I mean, are the Rams really going to be in a position to pick off one of the wild card spots in the NFC? Matthew Stafford, I think, as long as he's 100%, uninjured, perfectly healthy, he can help you win. Monday night was the kind of game that you're going to have some secret Matthew Stafford injuries. And I mean secret from the standpoint if he doesn't even tell the team. He just shuts up and deals with it. And eventually you get to the point where you're not the guy you were. Right. They can't protect him. He got banged around. He's an old 35.
Like last year.
He's not going to have that same zip. Exactly. So I can't have faith in them. I don't have faith in any of them. I'm going to pass for the first time ever. I am passing the pick. It's over. It's done with 5 selections. There is no other team about whom I feel optimistic. We're going to take a break. We'll wrap up this Wednesday edition of PFT Live right after this. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.